Naruto. Naruto, let's turn dark. Chapter 11. For example, Hitaki Sakumo. For example, the former Senju clan, and the next Uchiha clan. Of course, if Su Ming has the same problem, Danzo won't mind and will use special means. As for his identity as the adopted son of Namikaze Minato. He was not afraid of Sakumo Hitaki, known as the White Fang of Konoha, let alone a mere fourth-generation adopted son. 4 generations of real sons are being treated like this, so what happens to the adopted son? I have my own arrangements for this matter, so you don't have to worry about it. Sarutobi said. Snort. Danzo didn't protest, got up and left. After his birthday, Naruto would be 4 years old. According to the convention of ninja schools, when you are 5 years old, you should enter the ninja school. So this time, Namikaze Minato became a little busy. For the first time, I was worried about my son's enrollment in school. After seeing Naruto's current life, Namikaze Minato would naturally not think that Naruto could grow up healthy and happy as he expected. What he thinks about most now is that Naruto will not be bullied after entering school. So, he started teaching Naruto ninjutsu. However, when it came time to teach ninjutsu in person, Namikaze Minato had a huge headache. Su Ming had always felt that there were only 2 real geniuses in Konoha. Naruto, Konohamaru. Because Naruto taught Konohamaru how to use the Rasengan. Konohamaru, on the other hand, learned the Rasengan from Naruto. Su Ming had always felt that Naruto's poor teaching skills came from Jiraiya. But I didn't expect. Naruto, next, I'm going to teach you a super powerful ninjutsu. Wow. Naruto looked expectant. The first element of this ninjutsu is rotation. Namikaze Minato said. The second element is power. Naruto looked forward to it. Moreover, there is the most important third element. Must kill. The difficulty of this ninjutsu is a level. It is a super ninjutsu that combines spin, power, and sure kill. Rasengan. As soon as he finished speaking, a light blue Rasengan appeared on Namikaze Minato's outstretched palm. So awesome. Naruto looked forward to it. But, can I learn such a powerful ninjutsu? That's why I want to teach you. Namikaze Minato smiled. And even a fool can learn this move. Then, a water ball appeared in Namikaze Minato's hand. This was specially prepared by Su Ming. Namikaze Minato said. If you want to practice, use this water polo. I just want to blow him up with a bang. Snapped. The water ball burst. It's that simple. Minato smiled. Su Ming. What a genius professor. I, Su Ming, would like to call you the strongest. After seeing Namikaze Minato's education methods, Su Ming couldn't help but put his hand on his forehead. I'm just too lazy to complain. Now it's clear, the methods used by Naruto to educate Konohamaru turned out to be the same. From Namikaze Minato. What do you mean by banging first and then exploding with a ping? This. Su Ming looked at Naruto with some sympathy. I still don't quite understand. Naruto scratched his head, still looking confused. Namikaze Minato was also stunned. It's very simple. It just bangs and then pings and it explodes. With a popping sound, the water ball in Namikaze Minato's hand exploded again. Su Ming curled his lips, he really couldn't stand it anymore. It seems that Iruka's education is better. Until the end, Namikaze Minato, who was scratching his head and having nothing to do with Naruto, had no choice but to call Su Ming over with a look of helplessness. Su Ming, come and tell Naruto how to use the Rasengan. Well, Su Ming was stunned. Rasengan. Doesn't this thing just need hands? Even if you ask him to teach Naruto, he won't know how. He can't just say, just have hands, right? This is outrageous. Father, how about teaching Naruto other ninjutsu? After all, the Rasengan is an A-level ninjutsu. Isn't it a little too high for Naruto? Namikaze Minato thought about it, it was the same. After all, Naruto was only 4 years old. Thinking back to the time he spent creating the Rasengan, it was indeed a little early for Naruto to start learning at the age of 4. If that's the case, let's change to another ninjutsu. Eventually, the 4th generation changed his mind. Naruto, this ninjutsu is too difficult. Let's change it to another one. What I will teach you next, the shadow clone technique, is a rare and powerful ninjutsu. What Namikaze Minato teaches is naturally not an ordinary clone technique, but one that can truly separate entities. When teaching the shadow clone technique, Namikaze Minato performed better. However, because the amount of chakra in Naruto's body is too large and difficult to control, the difficulty is much higher. As a result, after several attempts, they all ended in failure. Finally, the somewhat helpless Namikaze Minato seemed to realize that he had no talent as a professor, so he could only look to Suming for help. Naruto also looked over. Brother, how do you make this seal? Suming was confused. Formation. Isn't that thing just clapping your hands and shouting whatever you want? Who is a serious ninja? After being silent for a long time, Suming had no choice but to say, Naruto, let me find you a teacher. Namikaze Minato didn't want to agree at first, but he really had nothing to do with Naruto. I had to nod. The best candidate in Suming's mind is Iruka. After all, Iruka's educational ability is extremely good. Even in the original Hokage, Naruto did not turn black, which was largely due to Iruka. Suming felt relieved when Naruto was handed over to Iruka. At this time, Iruka was already a Chunin. As the team leader, he was familiar with the cruelty of the ninja world, which gradually made him feel tired. To these disputes, these wars. Iruka thinks that maybe his personality is not suitable for the battlefield, right? However, apart from missions, ninjas have few sources of income. Without missions, they have no way to support themselves. Besides, his team still needs him. When he was confused, Iruka liked to go to the Heroic Soul Monument and face his parents, as if he had everything to rely on. Suming found him here. Yumi no Iruka. One person. Suming walked over and looked at the Heroic Soul Monument as well. There were many names on it, ranging from household names to no one. Iruka was a little surprised by Suming's arrival. Although he didn't recognize him, he still nodded. Suming handed over a wine gourd. What was inside was not wine from this world, but from the past life. He redeemed it from the template mall. The wine is very spicy. After Iruka took a sip, his face turned red and tears flowed out. Suming took back the wine gourd, raised his head and took a big gulp. They are all heroes. Maybe it was because of the alcohol that made Iruka a little drunk, or maybe he saw a small child saying such a thing. In short, Iruka's chat box was opened and he said a lot. He talked about his childhood, the story of not being recognized, and the past of trying to become a ninja. People who work hard always deserve to be respected. But in this world, hard work alone is not enough. Take Xiao Li as an example. Zuzu learned the physical skills that he spent many years of hard work in just a few days. He also worked hard, but that was only a small part of Xiao Li's tens of thousands of days and nights. This is talent. My name is Su Ming. After listening to Iruka's words, Suming stretched out his hand and introduced himself. Iruka also extended his hand. Iruka. Hold hands. This counts as knowing each other. Very simple. Then there's purpose. I want you to teach my brother ninjutsu. Don't worry about Sandai, I will tell you that this is a task and I will pay you. Suming was very straightforward. He's always been like this. Iruka was a little hesitant. He was a little moved, but he couldn't make up his mind yet, so he decided to learn more. Can I ask, who is your brother? His name is Uzumaki Naruto. Suming did not shy away. When anyone hears this name, their first reaction will be the name of the nine-tailed demon fox, and they will subconsciously avoid it. But, Suming believed that Iruka would not, because he was once Naruto's angel. Then in the future, he will still be. Sure enough, as Suming expected. Iruka only showed hesitation, not avoidance or even disgust. After a long time, Iruka sighed. You should find someone else. My parents died during the Nine Tails Rebellion. Frank enough. This is considered a polite refusal. Suming handed over the wine gourd again. He is too. His parents also died in the Nine Tails Rebellion. Even before I came back, he didn't even know his parents' names. Iruka opened his mouth, raised his head and took a sip of wine. Although it was spicy, after the alcohol entered his throat, it turned into a sweet fragrance. The feeling of being slightly tipsy made Iruka a little intoxicated. Naruto's life is very hard. He has no friends and no recognition. But even so, he is still optimistic and aims to become Hokage. Su Ming's expression suddenly became serious. Iruka, you should know that it was Kyuubi who killed your parents, not Naruto. Iruka was silent and didn't speak. And, do you know who his parents are? Iruka looked at him with an inquiring look. His father, known as the Yellow Flash, single-handedly changed the last world war and even died trying to save the village. When he said this, Iruka already had the answer in his heart, but he was still waiting for Su Ming to say it. His name is Namikaze Minato. Iruka's pupils narrowed. Really? The shock of learning Naruto's identity instantly diluted Iruka's inner grief. Even those intoxicating feelings after drinking have almost completely disappeared. Iruka looked shocked. Yondaime. Sir. Yes. Su Ming nodded. You didn't expect it, did you? Really? Iruka smiled bitterly. He really didn't expect that the fourth-generation master's descendant would be the boy known as the Fox Demon in the village. As a result, Iruka also had some doubts about the third generation. Iruka is not stupid. Then, I would like to invite you to educate the fourth Hokage's son. Are you willing? Willing. Iruka didn't hesitate this time. After a hero, no matter what time, he is worthy of respect. Su Ming also smiled slightly. For this mission, I will classify him as B level and the reward will be 100,000. Don't worry, I won't treat you badly. 100,000. Iruka was confused. You know, even if he goes out on a regular mission, his reward is only a few thousand. He didn't eat or drink the 100,000 yuan mission reward. He needed to perform 100 missions to save up. Isn't this a little too much? Ninjas are naturally paid according to their tasks. The reward for AD level mission is 500 to 2000 taels. The reward for C level tasks is 2000 to 10,000 taels. The reward for AB level mission is between 10,000 and 100,000 taels. A level tasks range from 100,000 taels to 1 million taels. Of course, higher level tasks are beyond their reach. Now, the mission reward given by Su Ming to Iruka is undoubtedly the highest reward for B level missions. This is really important to Iruka who is short of money. Not much. Su Ming smiled. As long as you treat Naruto well, I'm willing to pay you any amount. The main thing is that Namikaze Minato is really not an educator. I will definitely treat Naruto well. Iruka promised. Su Ming smiled. He wasn't worried about Iruka. After telling Iruka the address, Su Ming left here and went to the Hokage's office. The transfer of ninjas needs to go through the Hokage, especially now, this is still a task issued by Su Ming. Hokage Tower. In the office, Sarutobi looked at the piles of documents on the table. Although his eyes were tired, there was a hint of enjoyment in the tiredness. Power always makes people addicted to it. Leaned slightly. There was a knock on the door, and Sarutobi stretched his somewhat stiff neck and shouted to come in. The door was opened and Su Ming walked in. Surprise flashed in Sarutobi's eyes. Su Ming, you came to me for something. Su Ming nodded. Naruto is 4 years old, and it stands to reason that he will be of age to enter school next year. The ninja school is not like at home, and he will face all kinds of people. I am afraid that Naruto will be bullied, so I need to find someone to teach him. Sarutobi nodded in understanding. He asked, then you come to me because you want me to arrange a teacher for you. Sarutobi looked embarrassed. I do want to help. After all, Naruto is Minato's child, so he should help. However, the village is in such a situation that there is really no manpower available. Su Ming sneered in his heart. Not to mention the many people in Anbu and Roots who were idle at this time, even Kakashi was resting at home not long after the mission ended. Sarutobi's helplessness was nothing more than an excuse. He has always been hypocritical, he just didn't say it clearly. I don't need to worry about it, Lord 3 Generations, Su Ming said. I have already chosen the candidate for the teacher. This time I came to see the third generation, just to register the mission. Have you found it? Sandai suddenly frowned. Sarutobi had always checked every person the Jinchuriki approached. No one can approach Naruto without his approval. Su Ming nodded and didn't shy away. His name is Iruka and he is a Chunin. Is there a problem with the third generation? Sarutobi thought about it carefully, and he remembered that Iruka was just an ordinary Chunin and had no special identity. He smiled. Of course not, I trust you, just like I trusted Minato. The third generation smiled kindly. If he didn't know his face, Su Ming would be extremely moved. But unfortunately, Su Ming knew the third generation too well. A Hokage who speaks the will of fire, a figure who has not shown much publicity in several ninja wars, but is called the strongest Hokage. Danzo was allowed to attack Konoha White Fang and the Senju clan, but it was as if he had not heard of it. All he did was to consolidate his power. However, when the village is really in danger, there are people who can stand up and sacrifice themselves. From this point of view, his so-called will of fire has indeed been implemented. Therefore, Sandai is undoubtedly an extremely contradictory person. However, this has nothing to do with Su Ming. He only had Naruto in his eyes. I hope Sandai won't go too far, otherwise, Su Ming won't mind killing him with the sword. Then, thank you Sandai. Su Ming smiled and turned around. By the way, I define the mission as Class B, and the reward is 100,000 taels. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already gone out, leaving only Sandai with a shocked look on his face. 100,000 taels. So rich. Su Ming had expected Sandai's reaction. After the last war and the attack from Kumogakure, Konoha was in dire straits. 100,000 taels of tasks, but I haven't seen one for a long time. And now. To be honest, the third generation suddenly envied Iruka and this ordinary Chunin. He even thought that if he could treat Naruto better, would he be able to misappropriate the money in Su Ming's hands. Su Ming is not short of money, he has already shown it. During his 3 years away from home, he did more than just kill people. If you don't kill people but don't cheat, then what's the point? Of course, Su Ming showed these just to see what the third generation looked like. I have money, but if I don't give it to you, I'll make you mad. Go out. Su Ming was in a good mood, and Sarutobi's appearance made him feel very happy. Now that Naruto has the education, what he needs next is to improve his strength. In this war-torn world, things are changing rapidly and lives may be threatened at any moment. Konoha has long ceased to be a safe place to live. In order to protect his younger brother, he had a reason to improve his strength. So next, he will try his best to unlock the next template. Current first template progress, 15.6%. Still missing 4.4%. On the way home, he needed to cross a small river. When crossing the bridge, Su Ming saw a small figure in the bridge from a distance. White clothes, brown hair, tied into small bundles at the end. The figure turned its back to him, staring into the river. Su Ming's heart trembled as she recognized his identity. The genius of the Hyuga family, Hyuga Neji. He is also a tragic figure. According to the plot, this should be the time not long after Hinata Hazashi died. When Neji was 4 years old, he lost his father. As if aware of someone behind him, 4-year-old Neji turned his head. The mark of the caged bird on his forehead was very obvious. His eyes were empty, and the tears had just dried. He looked at Su Ming and asked, "Do you have a father?" The first surprise. "Do you have a father?" Su Ming visibly trembled when he heard this. He looked at the child who was a head shorter than him and suddenly felt sympathy. But this trace of sympathy was quickly extinguished by Su Ming. He is Neji. Hinata Neji. He deserves no sympathy. Because to the strong, it means blasphemy. I have. Su Ming replied. He still remembered that even though he knew it, when he first heard the news that Namikaze Minato had gone, he felt like the sky was falling. Because I have had it, I am afraid of losing it. Neji nodded, then turned his head away, his little body looking extremely lonely. Me too. This was Neji's answer. The voice was calm, with no hint of sadness or joy. Apart from these few sentences, there was not much conversation between the two. Su Ming walked to Ningqi's side, stood next to him, and stared at the water in the river together. The water in the river flashes. Neji spoke. I don't understand. It's obviously just one family, but it has to be divided into the main family and the branch family. The fate of the branch family is just to die for the main family. My father has been working hard to protect the Zong family all his life, and in the end, he died for the Zong family. I didn't want to do this, so I hit Hinata and didn't let her go. Neji kept talking, regardless of whether Su Ming understood or not. Of course, this doesn't matter, he just needs someone to talk to. She is very weak and cannot defeat me. I want to prove that people from the branch family are never weaker than the Zong family. I am strong, far stronger than them. When he said this, little Neji's face showed an indescribable strength. Su Ming did not comfort him, but took out the wine gourd. There is no need for too many words between men. Drink a sip. Neji was stunned for a moment, then took it. He raised his head and took a large gulp of strong liquor directly into his throat. He looked very bold when drinking, but the result was one can imagine. Neji, who had never drank strong alcohol before, choked until tears and snot flowed out from his nose. The scalding hot drink made his face turn red. At the same time, the sadness in my heart is slowly washed away. Ahem. Neji kept coughing. It was his first time to taste strong liquor, and he obviously couldn't stand the taste. Ha ha. Su Ming laughed out loud. At this moment, Ningqi picked up the wine gourd again and drank another sip. This time it was even more brutal than last time, and he looked drunk. Su Ming took back the wine gourd from Ningqi. Ningqi was still young, so he couldn't be allowed to drink too much. But even these 2 sips of wine were enough for him to bear. After 2 sips of wine, Neji felt dizzy and soon fell into a deep sleep. Su Ming shook his head and looked helplessly at this equally unfortunate child. Seeing this, I can only send him home. However, he didn't know where the Hinata family was. Fortunately, before Su Ming was in trouble, a small figure appeared. White eyes, short hair, long clothes and trousers. When Su Ming turned his head, his cheeks turned red from looking at each other, and he quickly lowered his head. Hinata, Hinata. Then, well, can you give brother Neji back to me? Hinata mustered up her courage and looked at Su Ming Dao. Seeing this girl who was wearing the costumes of the Hyuga clan, her shy look was extremely cute. Su Ming's heart moved, and he couldn't help but have the idea of teasing her. Of course I can give it back to you, but he sold himself to me before he went to bed. If I give him to you, how are you going to compensate me? Hinata was stunned for a moment, and then said crisply. I'll give you money. Su Ming shook his head. The preciousness of Bai Yan cannot be measured by money, unless it is exchanged for something of equal value. Hinata was stunned. The corners of Su Ming's lips raised. Why don't you give me your white eyes, and I'll give them to you? Hinata was stunned, and then her face started to struggle. Just when Su Ming was about to stop teasing her, Hinata's eyes suddenly became firm. Okay, I promise you. It was Su Ming's turn to be stunned. Is this girl so stupid? But you have to send brother Neji back to my house. This is Hinata's condition. Not too silly. Know how to ask parents for help. No problem. The original intention was to send Neji back, but teasing Hinata was just a whim. And Su Ming also wanted to see how far Hinata, a big family in Konoha, had reached now. Su Ming carried Neji on his back and followed Hinata home. On the road, although Hinata was walking in front, the rest of her eyes looked at Su Ming from time to time. Even after being discovered by Su Ming, he would blush and say something. I wasn't looking at you. This girl is so cute. Su Ming shook his head, a little helpless. Moreover, after being discovered, it wouldn't be long before Hinata would peek again. Su Ming had no choice but to pretend not to notice. Not long after, we arrived at the Hinata family. After opening the door, he saw Hinata Hinashi with a serious face in the yard. Hinata seemed a little nervous and shouted in a low voice, "Father, I'm back." Hinata responded, but his eyes did not stay on Hinata. Instead, he looked at Su Ming and asked sternly. Who are you? Father, he is my friend. At this time, Hinata spoke nervously. He's here to take brother Neji home. Hinata is not stupid, she is just too shy and unwilling to reveal her inner thoughts. From the interactions along the way, she could tell that this handsome brother was not a bad person. Shy people often have great courage on certain occasions. That's the case with Hinata. Su Ming was a little surprised that Hinata would stand up. This girl is as innocent as ever, and you can't help but like her. Shaking his head, Su Ming put Neji down on his back. I didn't expect that the Hyuga clan, known as the most powerful clan in Konoha, would be as frightened as a bird of prey. It's not a bad idea to treat guests like this. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. However, at this moment, Hinata Hazu's body moved, and his 2 arms were like 2 vines, twining up in an instant. In an instant, he was behind Su Ming. Bagwazong. Su Ming turned around and drew his sword instantly. A flash of cold light appeared instantly, and it was slashed out with unmatched sharpness. Not even Hinata Hazu dared to take this sword forcefully. Bagwazong returned to heaven. When Hinata saw her father using this move, Hinata's inner horror reached its extreme. At this time, she only had one thought in her heart, so strong. Click. Broken. The defense of Bagwazong Huishan was directly cut open by Su Ming. At this time, taking advantage of the gap, Su Ming threw a kunai fiercely. Hinata ducked with their heads tilted. However, before he could relax and prepare to attack again, suddenly, he discovered that Su Ming in front of him had disappeared. Laugh. Byakugan suddenly opened. Just behind him, the chakra aura appeared instantly in the Kubu place. Then a figure appeared immediately, holding the kunai. Hinata's pupils widened instantly. That is. Flying Thunder God. Flying Thunder God. A ninjutsu developed by the second Hokage and refined and made popular in the hands of the fourth Hokage. Since the death of the fourth generation, the Flying Thunder God has been almost lost. Why does this kid in front of me use it? For a moment, many thoughts flashed through Hinata and Hazu's mind, but they still couldn't understand them. However, the battle was changing rapidly and he couldn't help but be distracted. Boom. Hyuga Hazashi turned to defend, but was directly repelled. In Su Ming's hand, a ball of light blue rotating chakra was particularly obvious. Hinata's eyes widened again. That is. Rasengan. It is also the fourth generation of ninjutsu. Why? Hinata Hazu stopped and looked at Su Ming in front of him in confusion. After the blow just now, his arm was still slightly numb. What a strong boy. Hinata was shocked, seeing him like this, but he was only 8 or 9 years old, but he had the upper hand in the battle with him. Don't be surprised, head Hyuga. I can do what the fourth generation knows. Su Ming said slowly. Of course, he won't, and neither will I. If anyone else had said this, Hinata Hazu would have scoffed at it, but he believed the young man in front of him. Have to believe it. Who are you? He asked again. Su Ming. Su Ming. After murmuring and repeating it, Hinata Hazu suddenly raised his head and said in surprise. The adopted son of the fourth Hokage. Su Ming nodded. After confirming Su Ming's identity, Hinata Rizu put down all his guard and prepared to invite Su Ming in. But Su Ming refused. He has his own pride. I thought that a big family like the Hinata would have good hospitality, but I thought too much. The Hinata clan is nothing more than that. After saying that, he turned around and left without any hesitation. Hinata Hinatsu's face was full of embarrassment, and he wanted to open his mouth to persuade her to stay, but couldn't keep it down. At this time, Hinata on the side spoke. Su Ming Jun, wait a moment. Su Ming paused for a moment, turned around and smiled. This smile is as warm as the morning sun. Next time, Hinata, forgive me. Then he reached out his hand and touched Hinata's forehead. I still like you very much. As soon as the words fell, the body had disappeared. As for Hinata, her little face was already red, and her head was even more empty. At this time, she only had one thought. Mingjun said, that he likes me. Boom. Hinata fell backwards. After catching Hinata Hinatsu, a father, was so angry that he actually molested his daughter in front of him. This is really unreasonable. After some anger, Hinata Hazu had no choice but to sigh and put the two fainted people back into the house. How could he not understand that Hinata was like this? She had clearly fallen. And Neji. He sighed heavily, with memories in his eyes. Hazashi, I will definitely take good care of him. Definitely, take care of your son. Must. After putting the two little ones away, Rizu left. Su Ming's appearance affected his mood. He is obviously 8 or 9 years old, but he has such strength. And his younger brother, the nine-tailed Jinchuriki, came into contact with him, whether for good or bad. Well, headache. There is no place for women to stay in college. How old are you? When night fell, Hinata and Neji woke up one after another. Of course Hinata woke up earlier, but after waking up, she remembered that she had fainted in front of her father, and then continued to pretend to be faint. Hinata's face turns red every time she thinks about it. It's so embarrassing. The two little ones were put together. When Neji woke up, the first thing he saw was Hinata with a red face. Ning, brother Neji. Neji responded lightly, and then prepared to turn around and leave. After his father's death, he no longer had a good impression of the clan members. The same goes for Hinata. Neji, let's talk. At this time, the door opened, and Hinata Hiyashi walked in with a determined look on his face, holding a letter. I originally wanted to wait until you grow up before telling you, but I didn't expect that my thoughts would cause you pain. Please forgive me. Hinata handed the letter in his hand to Neji. Neji opened it and his eyes trembled. This is father's handwriting. Letter. Neji, I don't have much time. In this limited time, I have something to tell you. The matter between Kumogakure and Konoha must be settled. Byakugan cannot fall into the hands of outsiders. Originally, my brother planned to die, but as a branch family, our mission is to protect the clan. I knocked him unconscious. Ningji, you have always seen your father's inaction, but this time, his father did not die for the clan, but to protect you, my brother, my family, and even the entire village. This is my will. Neji, I have always wanted to resist the fate of the Hyuga family, so this time, I want to decide my own fate, that's all. I broke my own destiny, Neji. Destiny must be developed with your own hands. Daddy loves you, Neji. Father. 4-year-old Neji held the letter in his hand tremblingly and couldn't stop crying. Boom. At this time, Hinata, who had always been serious, actually bent his knees and knelt down, his head hanging very low. This is the truth. I'm sorry, if it was me who died. When he learned the truth, the impact on Neji was huge. For a long time, his mind was blank. The truth is often more cruel. At this time, Hinata suddenly said, Su Mingjun, let me tell you after you wake up. After a person is born, what is arranged is not destiny, but the starting point. We work hard, so hard, not to resist, but to make better choices and go to a better place. Good finish. Hinata smiled. Destiny is actually a very beautiful word. Neji was stunned and his eyes became confused. Hinata continued. Ning. Brother Ningki, I don't know what my better choice is, but I know that I am willing to work hard to catch up with Su Mingjun. I think, his side should be my other shore, right? When she said this, Hinata smiled beautifully and happily, like the sun. Hinata means facing the sun. And their family should also work hard towards the sun, right? Hinata-sama. Hinata-sama. Neji's body was shaking, tears sparkling in his eyes. At this moment, the barrier between them has disappeared. Father, can a person's destiny just be like a cloud, floating in a determined direction? Or can he decide his direction by himself? I still don't quite understand. Lady Hinata said that her destiny lies with Su Mingjun. I think I should be the same, right? Su Mingjun is a very good person. Under the blue sky, Neji looked up and showed a smile like the sun. After leaving the Hinata family, Su Ming returned home. He has already given guidance on Neji's matter, and he believes that Hinata will handle it well. Now, Su Ming still has Hinata's appearance before leaving in her mind. This girl is so cute. Go home. Uruka has been here for half a day. And he got along great with Naruto. It has to be said that Uruka's educational ability is quite good. At least the ninjutsu that made Namikaze Minato difficult and powerless was extremely simple for Uruka. Naruto also learned quickly. Naruto wasn't stupid to begin with. As the son of Namikaze Minato and Kushina, how could his qualifications be so bad? In the original book of Naruto, the reason why he learns ninjutsu very slowly is because of the influence of the Nine Tails chakra. But now, with Minato Namikaze here, he can naturally block the influence of the Nine Tails chakra very well. In just half a day, Naruto mastered the difficult ninjutsu of Shadow Clone. Elder brother. When he saw Su Ming, Naruto ran over excitedly and hung on Su Ming desperately. Brother, I learned a ninjutsu. I'm one step closer to becoming Hokage. If you work hard, Naruto will definitely become Hokage. Su Ming touched Naruto's head lovingly, with a smile on his face. Su Ming, since you are back, I have to leave too. Uruka stood up and prepared to leave. Thank you, Uruka. No need to thank me. Uruka touched Naruto's head and smiled happily. Naruto is very obedient and smart. He learns ninjutsu very quickly. At this rate, I won't be able to teach him for long with my level. By the way, Naruto, don't forget our agreement. When he said this, he also grinned and gave a thumbs up. Naruto also made the same move. Well, I won't forget it. Uruka leaves. Naruto was happy. However, Suming was a little curious about their agreement. After asking, Naruto never said anything. In the end, Suming learned from the 9 llamas. This agreement is that after Naruto learns the next ninja, Uruka will reward Naruto with some money. Suming was even more confused about this. However, for various reasons, not even the 9 llamas knew about it this time. Uruka was in a good mood on the way out of Naruto's house. For the first time, he discovered that teaching and educating people was such a joyful thing. Wherever the leaves are flying, the fire is endless. Perhaps, the will of fire described by the 3rd generation is like this. However, today, when he was telling Naruto this sentence, Naruto asked him a question. When the leaves are flying, the fire will continue to grow. The fire will illuminate the village and let the new trees sprout. Regarding this sentence, Naruto asked, if the leaves are flying and a raging fire is ignited, will the new trees sprout under the fire, or will all the trees be burned together? This question made Uruka silent. He didn't know how to answer. This was the first time that he heard such remarks and heard someone question the 3rd generation's words. And, from the mouth of a child. Naturally, these words were not said by Naruto, but by Suming. He taught Naruto and told him that the fire would definitely ignite, and it was the 2 of them who decided the direction of the fire. Naruto didn't understand, so he asked Uruka. Uruka was shocked. After walking a few more steps, when he was approaching the door of his house, an Anbu wearing a dog head mask stopped him. The man was condescending and his voice was cold. Uruka, come with me, Hokage-sama wants to see you. Hokage's office. There is smoke all year round. The 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, was puffing away day and night, and stood in the Hokage's room, overlooking the entire village. The village under his rule. There was a knock on the door, and after receiving approval, Uruka walked in. Sandaime-sama, are you looking for me? Yeah. Sarutobi showed his usual kindness. I heard that Suming asked you to educate Naruto. Uruka nodded, his heart trembling at the same time. He knew Naruto's identity and guessed that there was something unusual about the 3rd generation. At this moment, the actions of the 3rd generation undoubtedly prove that this is true. Maybe, the 3rd generation is not as good as he seems, Uruka thought to himself. Sarutobi said, it would be nice if someone educated me. He showed a little melancholy. Maybe you don't know, Naruto is the son of the 4th Hokage and Kushina. Ah. Uruka was a little surprised, but just surprised that the 3rd generation would actually say this. Sarutobi looked at Uruka's reaction and thought that Uruka didn't know about this at all, so he felt a little regretful and wanted to test it out. But the words have been said. I have always wanted to give Naruto the treatment he deserves, but I am still Hokage and need to consider more. If Naruto's identity is exposed, it will bring him many dangers. Sarutobi still looked kind. It is easy for people to think that what he says is true and believe it deeply. Uruka nodded and said nothing. I'm very grateful to you. Sarutobi said, as a relative of Naruto, this child has suffered too much over the years. Sarutobi looked a little melancholy. Uruka's view of the 3rd generation has changed somewhat, but when he came today, he also had something to say. Sandaime-sama, actually, I have something to tell you. Oh. You said. I want to educate the next generation of the village. Where the leaves are flying, fire will also grow endlessly. The fire will illuminate the village and let the new trees sprout. This is the will of fire taught by the 3rd generation. I want to better pass it on to the next generation. Please agree with the 3rd generation. Sarutobi smiled slightly, stood up, and walked to Uruka. You have a good idea. When Naruto enters school, you will be his first teacher. Uruka, I believe you. Uruka left. But the difference is that I still have some doubts about Sandai's words. No matter how you look at it, the identity of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is more attractive than the identity of the 4th generation son. From this point of view, the 3rd generation should have another purpose. After Uruka left, Danzo came in with a cold look. That boy went to the Hyuga clan again. Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly narrowed his eyes. Didn't I tell you that you don't need to interfere in this matter? Danzo sneered. I will pay attention to everyone who may be a threat to Konoha, no one is exception. Now it seems that this boy obviously has ulterior motives. Sarutobi can't be soft-hearted this time. You should know the importance of the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. How do you want to do it? After a long time, Sarutobi made a sound. Danzo said coldly. He hasn't been on a mission for a long time. He is a ninja, how could he not carry out a mission? After listening to Danzo's words, Sarutobi hesitated for a moment and finally nodded. Kyuubi is so important. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing today's task of swinging the sword 2000 times. The reward is 0.5% of the system template. Ding! The host Shenyumi Ito Tachibana Yukio's system template has reached 20%, and the system will start the extraction of the next template for the host. Do you want to proceed? Extract. As Su Ming's voice fell, the system began to extract templates. After a while. Ding! Congratulations to the host for drawing a new template, Shadow Blade, King Lanaling. Boom! At this moment, a shadow appeared in Su Ming's mind. He is the shadow hidden in the darkness. Also a fearless assassin. His eyes were full of wildness and aloofness. This moment. Su Ming closed his eyes tightly, as if he had merged with the darkness. When he opened his eyes, it was as if he had transformed into the figure in his mind. Wild, aloof. Tap. The sound of footsteps came and Su Ming looked over. Itachi, who had just appeared, was startled by Su Ming before he could say hello to Su Ming. At the same time, my heart was throbbing. At that moment, he felt as if he was being spied on by a wild beast. That's the smell of death. Ming-san. Itachi called. The wildness in his eyes disappeared, and Su Ming changed into a smiling face again, still sunny. Here we come, Itachi. He patted Itachi on the shoulder and it was still the same as before. Come in. The two trained as before, but Su Ming, who had unlocked a new template, was obviously stronger than before. And the absent-minded Itachi was even more difficult to resist. However, after a few quick moves, Itachi was defeated. Sheath the sword. Looking at Itachi who was obviously worried, Su Ming said, is something wrong? Itachi was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly and said, Ming-san saw it. Su Ming rolled his eyes, you showed it on your face, I'm not blind, how could I not see it? Itachi let out a long sigh of relief. He didn't know when he, who was good at hiding his emotions, would show everything clearly when facing Su Ming. Even if it's joy. After that sigh of relief, Itachi seemed to have made up his mind and his expression became serious. Ming-san, are you, influenced by the Kyuubi? Poof. Looking at Itachi with a serious face, Su Ming burst out laughing. He originally thought Itachi was worried about something, but he didn't expect it to be this. After patting Itachi on the shoulder and giving him a don't worry smile, Su Ming said. Kyuubi, there is no way it will affect me. His relationship with 9 llamas is solid. Moreover, Su Ming also promised Ju Lama that he would let him go out for a walk in the future. After listening to Su Ming's words, Itachi's expression became much better. That's it for today, Itachi. Su Ming smiled. I still have a mission. After saying that, he turned around and left. But Itachi still had a look of hesitation on his face, and he called Su Ming again. Ming-san, I know. Su Ming smiled. It's about the 3rd generation, right? I believe you, Itachi. You are my brother. After that, he left. The same sentence seemed so sincere after Su Ming said it. Itachi looked at Su Ming's leaving figure, his eyes became more determined, and he swore secretly. No one can hurt Ming-san. No one. Su Ming said goodbye to Naruto. The strange thing is that when parting, Naruto didn't feel particularly reluctant to say goodbye, but instead showed a different kind of strength. He even gave a thumbs up and said with a smile, brother, you have to work hard. Well, my lovely brother. With Minato Namikaze around, Su Ming wasn't worried about Naruto's safety at all. However, after he leaves, the 3rd generation should intensify his brainwashing of Naruto's thoughts. However, he never expected that there were 2 old guys living inside Naruto. 9 llamas, Namikaze Minato. It is not such a simple thing to change Naruto's mind. Su Ming leaves. On the way. Su Ming recalled the tasks assigned to him by the third generation, with a sneer on his lips. The mission level is B level. It's a capture mission. The mission target is a Chunin. The reward is 10,000 taels. It's funny to say that Su Ming's current ninja level is only the genin level, but what he wants to carry out is the task of capturing Chunin. What's more, this so-called Chunin. After looking at the mission location, Su Ming sneered even more. He was familiar with the original Naruto novels, so he was very familiar with that place. One of Orochimaru's secret strongholds. You said Orochimaru is a Chunin. This is really a joke that is not too funny. As for Orochimaru, Su Ming had actually met a very dangerous man a few times before. Or very purely, of course, whether he is a man or not, this is a question worth studying, and I believe Orochimaru will not waste time on this kind of question. At that time, Orochimaru wanted to study Su Ming, but unfortunately, he was stopped by Minato at that time. At that time, both Orochimaru and Su Ming felt pity. Orochimaru felt that he had lost a good research target, while Su Ming sighed for a high-quality snake soup. As for whether it can be beaten or not, there is no problem at all in cutting off a few sections. The one in the back was naturally Minato Namikaze. Otherwise, why would you need him? Su Ming was walking in the village and saw a familiar figure when passing the bathhouse. Although not very elegant, the body was tall, with long white hair hanging down to his waist, and a forehead protector with the word, oil, written on it. The hero Jiraiya, one of the three ninjas. It's a pity that now, she was naked, peering into the women's bathroom through the cracks in the wooden boards. Especially now, my mouth is almost drooling. Snapped. Su Ming helplessly held up his forehead, he was still the same. At this time, Su Ming made a move, suddenly put his hands together, and used the transformation technique. He directly changed into Tsunade's appearance, and at the same time stepped forward, patted Jiraiya on the shoulder, and shouted. Jiraiya, you are peeping again. Ah! Jiraiya after being discovered. He obviously looked frightened, and when he turned around and saw Tsunade's appearance, he was so frightened that he sat down on the ground. The dignified Sanin is now showing his ugliness. I have to say that Jiraiya was indeed afraid of Tsunade to his core. But it didn't take long before Jiraiya discovered the clues. He narrowed his eyes, looked at Su Ming, and asked. You're not Tsunade, who are you? Su Ming crossed his arms across his chest, and his mind couldn't help but sway when the arms intertwined. I forgot that Tsunade was so big. What did you say? Su Ming still pretended to be tough. Unexpectedly, Jiraiya sneered. Although you have become very similar and Tsunade is indeed that big, you have forgotten the most important point. What? How can Tsunade be so gentle? When he said this, Jiraiya's face dropped. It's really Tsunade, I would have flown out of the village long ago. Su Ming. This memory is so profound. With a bang, Su Ming changed back, looked at Jiraiya, and said with a smile. I have a mission here. I wonder if Mr. Jiraiya is interested in joining us. It's about Orochimaru. I have a mission here, about Orochimaru. After saying these words, Jiraiya's eyes widened. The previous exaggerated emotions completely disappeared, and were replaced by stability. Jiraiya has a deep obsession with Orochimaru. This obsession is as deep as Naruto's obsession with Sasuke in the original Hokage novel. The experiences of the master and the apprentice were similar, but the endings were different. Like Naruto at that time, he would go wherever Orochimaru was involved, no matter whether it was dangerous or not. So Su Ming was not worried at all. In fact, after Orochimaru defected, Jiraiya followed him and left the village. But in fact, Jiraiya would come back occasionally to see Naruto from a distance. He's dangerous. Unexpectedly, after a moment of silence, Jiraiya said such words. It's also crazy. I know, but I had a reason to go. Su Ming took out the mission file in his hand and handed it to Jiraiya. Jiraiya took it and frowned. Nonsense. Suddenly, Jiraiya said angrily. Sandai is asking you to die. I'll go find him. With that said, he was about to leave. Jiraiya-sama, you should know what kind of person the third generation is, right? Su Ming didn't hold back, he just said. After hearing the words, Jiraiya paused in his steps and fell silent at the same time. Of course he knew what Sandai was like as a disciple of Sandai. One of the three ninjas. They know their teachers too well, so they leave one after another. Well. Jiraiya sighed, then turned his head. What's your plan? I actually want to see Orochimaru. To be precise, I want to taste the taste of snake soup. When saying this, Su Ming stuck out his tongue and licked the corner of his mouth. The wildness in Su Ming's eyes was clearly revealed. When he noticed his gaze, Jiraiya's heart trembled. He subconsciously thought he saw Orochimaru. No, more dangerous than Orochimaru. If I hadn't known that you were Minato's son, I would have thought that you were Orochimaru's illegitimate child. Jiraiya said. Su Ming smiled. No words were spoken. He was very curious, if Orochimaru really had a child, would he call him daddy or mommy? An interesting topic. The two set off. Orochimaru's stronghold was not far from the Land of Fire, so it didn't take much time to find it. However, when approaching the stronghold, Jiraiya seemed a little hesitant. It's not so much hesitation as fear. He knew very well that he could not persuade Orochimaru to return. However, there is always a ray of obsession in my heart. Moreover, the two of them actually had no common interests, and since the immortal arts learned by Jiraiya were not as smooth as Naruto's, they were naturally helpless. Between the two of them, Jiraiya was lustful, but Orochimaru didn't even care about gender. Compared to Jiraiya's peeping, Su Ming felt that if it were Orochimaru, he would probably directly occupy his body. Then he looked at Jiraiya with a sinister smile and said, Jiraiya, how about my new body? That scene, combined with Orochimaru's voice, would probably cast a shadow on Jiraiya for the rest of his life. But just when Jiraiya hesitated, Su Ming felt two extremely strong auras appearing. At this moment, they were outside Orochimaru's stronghold. Two people wearing black trench coats with red clouds embroidered on the hem stood. The difference is that among the two, one of them has a stooped figure and his whole body is covered under a windbreaker. Only a scorpion-like tail sticking out from behind is very obvious. The other one had orange hair and an indifferent face. The most surprising thing was the purple ripples in his eyes. The identities of the two people have been revealed. Pain. Red Sand Scorpion. Orochimaru stood opposite. We have investigated a lot of information about you, and it is clear that you are investigating Xiao. Xie said. Oh, really? Then it seems that you are here to take action this time. Orochimaru licked his lips and showed the same cold smile as before. However, I also know a lot about you, Red Sand Scorpion. Although you are hidden in this puppet, your real weapon should be the third cage, right? Hearing this, Scorpion's eyes revealed a cold look. Oh. Is the investigation clear? I should have never leaked it, right? I am very interested in researching interesting things. Orochimaru looked to the other side with greedy eyes. The eyes of the legendary immortal of six paths are of great research value. The organization, Akatsuki, is getting more and more interesting. I really want to find out. At this moment, Orochimaru's chakra was flowing, and he had the intention to take action. But at this time, Pain suddenly turned his head and looked to the other side. You two, you have been watching for a long time, can you come out now? Orochimaru and Scorpion were both stunned for a moment, then looked away. I never expected that I could see the legendary Samsara eye here. The two walked out. Jiraiya. Orochimaru's eyes turned and he recognized it directly. Long time no see, Orochimaru. Jiraiya said. Su Ming, who was on the side, first looked around at Orochimaru, then looked at the other two people. Pain, the scorpion of red sand. According to the development of the plot, the two of them should now invite Orochimaru to join the Akatsuki organization. Konoha. Xie narrowed his eyes, filled with murderous intent. His parents died at the hands of Konoha White Fang. Therefore, Scorpion did not have a good impression of the people of Konoha, including Orochimaru. Are you two his helpers? If so, then I don't mind solving them together. These are the words of Scorpion. Su Ming looked at him and said, although I'm not a helper, I don't mind getting rid of the eyesore first before taking action with Orochimaru. One sentence made the Scorpion suddenly increase its murderous intention. Little brat of Konoha, are you looking for death? Laugh. At this moment, the cold light suddenly flashed. The sudden cold light made several people present temporarily blind, but when their vision became clear, a red-haired boy had already appeared on the scene. That is the true nature of the Scorpion. What a powerful sword. Looking at Su Ming holding the sword, Orochimaru suddenly became excited. He licked his lips involuntarily and looked at Su Ming with longing in his eyes. It seems that this is the perfect sacrifice. On the other side, Pain's indifferent eyes also fluctuated. The sword strike just now was so fast that even he could only see an afterimage. It's so fast. Boom. The puppet fell to the ground, and Xie showed a solemn emotion. This was one of the few battles he encountered that Fei Liuhu could not handle. What's more, it shattered so quickly. He lowered his eyes and glanced at Fei Liuhu, which had been cut into two halves on the ground, and the cut was smooth and flat. Don't you use the strongest weapon? Su Ming held a long sword and asked with a smile. Looking at Su Ming with a smile on his face, Xie hesitated for the first time and doubted his abilities for the first time. At that moment, he even felt that if the other party was intentional, he could even split him open with a sword. Fei Liuhu is an extremely hard puppet. Even if it is damaged, Xie can still control it. But under that sword, he completely lost control. Xie looked straight at Su Ming. His sword seemed to have a suppressive effect on the puppet. Su Ming was still smiling. Just now, the power of the sword has been unlocked by 20% of the template progress. The Divine Dream Sword with sharp attributes can split everything in the world. Even if it is a puppet, it is no longer a problem. Scorpion still didn't speak. On the contrary, Orochimaru suddenly spoke. It turns out that the so-called Akatsuki organization is nothing more than that. It doesn't even have the guts to take action against a little kid. Orochimaru naturally saw Su Ming's power, and that sword strike just now, even if he did it in person, was still in danger of death. However, this did not prevent him from slandering the scorpion in front of him. Why don't you give it a try? Xie sneered. That's not possible. How can I part with such a perfect body? Hey, kid. Orochimaru looked at Su Ming. Can I know your name? Okay, I'll tell you after a meal of snake soup. Su Ming said. Hearing this, Orochimaru's pupils suddenly shrank, and he actually looked a little angry. Oh, it's you. It's really me. Hey, kid. Xie suddenly said, why don't you join us? As a reward, how about this snake making snake soup for you? I'm sure it will be delicious. Su Ming was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Xiao would actually want to recruit him. Although I am indeed curious about this organization, it is a pity that Su Ming cannot join Xiao. After all, the current leader of this organization is Obito. And Obito is the enemy who killed his parents. He does want revenge, but the time is not right yet. I'll catch this snake and make snake soup. How about you join us? Seeing that Su Ming didn't speak, Xie asked again. Su Ming smiled, I actually think Mr. Scorpion may not be able to win. After saying this, he came to Orochimaru's side and patted him on the shoulder. What do you think, Mr. Snake? Orochimaru licked his lips and didn't pay any attention to Su Ming's movements, his strength is still a little bit behind. Then let's give it a try. Xie said coldly, taking out a new puppet at the same time. Pain on the side frowned slightly. He could feel that Su Ming's strength was quite good, otherwise, Scorpion wouldn't have said anything to solicit him. Although this was not in Obito's order, it seemed to be an unexpected gain. Jia Jia. Orochimaru laughed strangely, and the airflow rushed in all directions. At the same time, he lowered his body and flew directly towards Scorpion. Xie sneered, controlled the puppet, and smashed it out. Boom. There was a loud bang. When the smoke cleared, they saw Orochimaru's figure lying on the ground. Scorpion showed sarcasm. Jiraiya frowned. Su Ming still had a smile on his face. Just when Xie was about to speak, Pain suddenly said. It's not over yet. Laugh. Suddenly, Orochimaru, who was lying on the ground, suddenly raised his head, and then opened his mouth. From the mouth, another figure of Orochimaru appeared. But this time, it avoided the scorpion and flew directly towards Pain. I'll take the reincarnation eye first. I've been longing for it for a long time. Orochimaru's laughter echoed in the air, but at this time, Scorpion had no intention of taking action, and instead showed a hint of ridicule. Ignorance. Seeing Orochimaru rushing toward him, Pain still looked indifferent, not even showing any intention to move. Are you scared? Jia Jia. Orochimaru laughed strangely. However, the moment he approached, Pain's reincarnation eyes moved, and then he drank in a low voice, like the power of God. Shinra Tenzheng. Boom. The sarcasm on Scorpion's lips became even more intense. Jiraiya was completely shocked. But neither of them noticed that the moment Orochimaru approached Pain, a kunai appeared in Su Ming's hand. That kunai has a special mark. The next moment, Su Ming's body disappeared. Flying Thunder God. Laugh. In front of Orochimaru, a sword slashed vertically, and the sky collapsed and the earth shattered. Boom. The power of Shinra's Tianzhong was directed in all directions, and the surrounding scenery could not bear it and exploded in an instant. A whole 100 miles of land was annihilated in an instant. Of course. Behind Su Ming is the only surviving Pure Land. He is like a god holding a sword, the true god in charge of destiny. Pain looked at the person in front of him and was stunned for a moment. You are strong, he said. Su Ming did not answer, but looked back at Orochimaru, who was still in shock, and asked. What's up? The excitement in Orochimaru's eyes was undisguised. It's okay, it's just that I'm craving for your body more and more. The swordsmanship that can block the Rinnegan's attack, not even Konoha White Fang, has this ability. I have said a long time ago that I am very interested in snake soup. Su Ming said calmly. Orochimaru paused. A rare deflated look. Perhaps the people who can best restrain scientists are not artists, but a foodie. Art is eternal, but food is annihilated. I'll protect this snake. Su Ming looked at Pain. Pain frowned. You can't beat me until you call a few other bodies. This time, Pain was completely moved. He has a total of 6 bodies. Not many people know this secret, but the people in front of him seem to know everything. What a tough enemy. After a long time, Pain looked at Xie. Let's go. Xie nodded, looked deeply at Su Ming, and then turned around. However, at the moment when Pain was about to leave, Jiraiya suddenly said. Are you Yahiko? Scorpion turned his head and looked at Pain. But he didn't show any sign and left directly. Jiraiya was a little lost. Su Ming shook his head, saying they were different and not conspiring with each other. He looked at Orochimaru. Let's talk at your place. Okay, I'm very happy. Within the stronghold, Orochimaru proudly introduced his results and said. The Red Sand Scorpion thought he controlled Kabuto, but I didn't expect that Kabuto was already mine. When he said this, he was a little sarcastic, and then looked at Su Ming. I originally wanted to join Xiao, but now I have changed my mind. Su Mingjun, I think you are much more interesting than Xiao. There is no blood successor limit. He is just an ordinary person, but he is not weaker than any ninja who has the blood successor limit. And that sword that split open the Samsara Eyes attack. Su Mingjun, your body is really fascinating. Su Ming still had a smile on his face. Mr. Snake, in this case, I will give it to you as well. Your body also fascinates me. My saliva is even drooling. Su Ming drew his sword, cold light reflected on it. Orochimaru suddenly lost his voice. On the way. Pain and the two were somewhat silent. Xie wrapped her windbreaker tighter around her body. She hadn't shown her true face for a long time and was not used to it. What should we do? Xie asked. This time he came out just to solve Orochimaru's problem. But now, instead of solving the problem, a more powerful enemy has been discovered. Pain clenched his fists, his face still expressionless. Let's go back first. With the strength of the two of them, if they were to deal with Su Ming alone, they would not be afraid, but Su Ming was not the only one. And Jiraiya. This name occupies a very large place in his memory. However, he is no longer the same boy as before, he has his own ideas. The boy who slays demons will eventually become a demon. Pain took steps forward, his steps becoming heavier and heavier. Within the stronghold. After the temptation, Orochimaru became honest and stopped saying anything outrageous. He has determined that in Su Ming's eyes, he is no different from an ordinary snake, so if he wants to survive, he must first prove his worth. Prove yourself to be of higher value than snake soup. For a moment, Orochimaru was helpless. Without caring about Jiraiya, Orochimaru called out Kabuto. This is my assistant, a very talented child. Orochimaru introduced. This is Su Mingjun. Orochimaru pointed at Su Ming. Do's age is only a few years older than Su Ming. At this moment, Kabuto looked at the young man in front of him, but he was someone who even Lord Orochimaru valued greatly. Next, he saw Jiraiya next to Su Ming. Jiraiya's apprentice. No, Kabuto suddenly discovered that although the position where the two were standing seemed ordinary, there were rules among ninjas. Facing a rebellious ninja like Orochimaru, how could Jiraiya let him stand in front of Orochimaru if he was his apprentice? Well, there is only one reason. The strength of the person in front of me is undoubtedly extremely strong. Kabuto pushed up the glasses frame on the bridge of his nose, smiled, and stretched out his hand. Hello, Su Mingjun. Hello. Su Ming nodded, but did not reach out. The smile on Kabuto's face froze, and then his eyes narrowed slightly. The atmosphere was slightly awkward. At this time, Orochimaru came out to smooth things over. Kabuto is a very smart boy. The information I learned about Scorpion came from him. It's worth mentioning that he used to be a scorpion. Su Ming nodded. He naturally knew Kabuto's identity as a multifaceted spy. He couldn't say whether he liked Kabuto or not, but he was a genius and always had his own arrogance. Although Kabuto behaved well in front of Orochimaru, it was hard to be convinced when faced with Su Ming, who was even younger than him. Therefore, it must be suppressed. Moreover, regarding Xiao's information, Su Ming knew very well that Kabuto was of little value to him. If you don't obey. Boom. Suddenly, Su Ming stretched out his hand, pressed Kabuto against the wall, and grabbed his neck at the same time. Are you unconvinced? It's okay to be unconvinced, but you must have the strength to match it. Before you have strength, any unpleasant expression is childish. I remember. Kabuto put away his previous expression, and his expression became more respectful. Su Ming stopped. From beginning to end, Orochimaru stood aside without any intention of taking action. For someone like him, it was difficult to have any emotions towards others. Of course, if there were any, it would be either the target or Orochimaru who suffered. After all, Orochimaru was once interested in Itachi, but it was a pity that he was killed by Nanasong with just one look. Now, Orochimaru is interested in Su Ming, but unfortunately he doesn't dare to show it too obviously. Otherwise, Su Ming would probably have no hesitation in making snake soup. Alas, dangerous man. Orochimaru touched his face, feeling a little headache. Next to Su Ming, there was still Jiraiya who had been silent. It seemed that since seeing Orochimaru, other than, long time no see, Jiraiya had never said anything else. This is a bit unusual. Not like Jiraiya's character. However, neither Su Ming nor Su Ming mentioned it. You should know the purpose of my coming here, right? Danzo told me, Orochimaru said, but I really didn't expect that Su Mingjun is so strong. If Su Mingjun wants to take me back, I will naturally not resist, but I don't think you will do this. Oh. Su Ming looked interested and asked, why? Orochimaru smiled. The wind that can drive the windmill will not be willing to be restrained. For Su Mingjun, Konoha is a kind of restraint. How about Su Mingjun leave Konoha? Become a rebellious nin, and I can help Su Mingjun and make your wind blow even more fiercely. When he said this, Orochimaru's eyes showed desire, and at the same time, he had no intention of avoiding Jiraiya. Su Ming turned his eyes and looked at Orochimaru. Those are the pupils of snakes. It is also the loyalty of the snake. However, for snake, loyalty is only temporary. If one day, he discovers that his master is not as strong as he thought, he will retaliate without hesitation. Su Ming smiled, his eyes stained with ink. The second template, Shadow Blade, is activated. At this moment, he transformed into a real hunter. A hunter who is one with the darkness. Using his pupils as a springboard, Orochimaru was already immersed in darkness. The ability of the second template is different from that of the first template. Its ability is similar to illusion, but different from illusion. Su Ming prefers to call this ability, Domain. Dark Realm. In this darkness, he is the master. What is drawn by the sword's edge is the territory. Snapped. Su Ming snapped his fingers, and Orochimaru shivered for a moment, then woke up. This time, his eyes were full of horror. Su Ming smiled. Maybe Mr. Snake understands rebel ninja as the ninjas say. Rebellious ninja, betrayed the village, and then was wanted, hunted, and hunted like a dog. Everyone calls me a lost dog. This kind of life really makes me unable to aspire to it. And what I understand about rebel nin is actually somewhat different from what Mr. Snake understands. Orochimaru looked sideways. Su Ming continued. Mr. Snake's rebellious ninja betrayed Konoha, but I am different. If I really become a rebellious ninja one day, then it must be that I didn't betray Konoha, but Konoha betrayed me. At this moment, Orochimaru opened his eyes, full of shock. Kabuto also raised his head suddenly and looked at Su Ming blankly. However, his eyes were no longer vicious, there was light in his eyes. That is Su Ming's light. No one thought that Su Ming would say such words. Although he is very powerful. In the ninja world, there are many people who have great strength at a young age. Kakashi became a Jonin at the age of 12, and Itachi destroyed the Uchiha clan at the age of 13. They are all geniuses. Although Su Ming is younger, he can accept it. However, insights need to be accumulated and are not achieved overnight. Jiraiya looked at Su Ming, also full of surprise. He didn't expect it either. Since Su Mingjun doesn't want to, then forget it, but I will always keep this position for you. Orochimaru pointed to his head. This means that Orochimaru is willing to assist Su Ming at any time. Su Ming smiled. He looked at Jiraiya and said, Mr. Jiraiya, after coming here, you don't plan to remain silent, do you? Focusing on Jiraiya, Orochimaru licked his lips. It's impossible for me to go back, Jiraiya, you should know. I know. Jiraiya nodded. He does still have obsessions in his heart, but he does know Orochimaru's character. He does not have the same experience as Naruto, nor does he have the influence of Asura. He will not be as persistent as Naruto to the point of being almost crazy. For him, besides wanting to recover Orochimaru, he also has another mission. The one in that prophecy, the son of prophecy. Jiraiya looked at Su Ming and suddenly smiled bitterly. I regret coming here with you. You are too strong and too dangerous. Finally, he added, more dangerous than Orochimaru. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed slightly. Although he was a little unhappy, he had to admit that Jiraiya was telling the truth. I was originally a little worried that you would join forces with Orochimaru to target Konoha, so I have been considering whether to take action. Even if I take action, you can't beat him. Jiraiya. Orochimaru struck at the side. Jiraiya ignored it and just looked at Su Ming. But I have changed my mind now. Please, for the sake of the fourth Hokage, give me and Konoha a chance. Jiraiya leaned over, keeping his posture extremely low. Konoha will never be your enemy. This is Jiraiya's oath. After going through this incident and seeing Su Ming's strength, how could he still not understand? If it is not handled well, Konoha's biggest crisis may happen to Su Ming. A genius ninja. If Jiraiya were to judge his level of genius, there would be only one word. At most two. Madara, Hashirama. If Konoha can treat him seriously, I believe Su Ming would not mind becoming the leader of Konoha, a figure like Senju Hashirama. On the contrary, it is Madara Uchiha who wants to destroy everything. What's more, there is a nine-tails Jinchuriki beside him. If the village really went that far, Jiraiya really couldn't think of any way to stop them. Only destruction. What determines all this is the attitude of Konoha, or the third generation. Jiraiya sighed, hoping that Mr. Sarutobi would realize the seriousness of the matter. At the same time, Jiraiya also had doubts in his heart at this time, whether Su Ming was the son of the prophecy. However, after thinking about it, Jiraiya shook his head. The child of prophecy could make tailed beasts friendly, but Su Ming did not have one around him. I don't think so. I hope so. Su Ming replied. He didn't care what happened to Konoha, but he cared about Naruto. With his current strength, although he has the ability to protect himself, Naruto is still young. He also needs a happy childhood and a good living environment. For this reason, Su Ming is willing to give Konoha a chance. Thank you. Jiraiya nodded. Then left. He needs to return to the village to give Konoha a warning and let the third generation come up with better countermeasures. At the same time, give these brothers better treatment. After all, Su Ming was not a young Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. He is a fully fledged eagle. After Jiraiya left, Orochimaru originally wanted to invite Su Ming to take a look at his research results, but when Su Ming pointed out the flaws in the research with two casual words, Orochimaru suddenly changed his expression. Along with Kabuto, there was fanaticism in his eyes, which was the desire for knowledge. In the end, Su Ming was a little embarrassed by the sight, and reluctantly changed from the template mall to something similar to the tablet in his previous life, which contained a lot of learning materials from his previous life. Of course, the level of the Naruto world is incomparable to that of the previous life, so Suming only placed it at the high school level. But even this made Orochimaru's eyes shine. Finally, when Orochimaru asked about the name of the thing in his hand, Suming said with a wicked look, "This thing is called Dingtalk, and the video on it is called online class." Orochimaru nodded, with a pious look on his face. "Thank you Suming Jun for allowing me to take online classes on Dingtalk." Puff. Orochimaru looked a little inexplicably happy, especially with the name Dingtalk. However, after that, Suming had to admire Orochimaru's learning attitude. There is simply nothing to say. Kabuto was also eager for the nail in Orochimaru's hand. He looked at Suming eagerly for a long time, but he didn't show any sign, but he looked a little disappointed. Suming was too lazy to pay attention, but still ordered Kabuto to take him around. Orochimaru's stronghold is not small, and there are many single rooms in it, which contain various experimental materials and experimental subjects. Human experiments are nothing new here. However, when passing by a single room, Suming's attention was attracted. Compared with other single rooms, it looked exceptionally clean, without any dust at all. After walking in, there was a clean young man sitting on the bed. He has white hair, green eyes, red eye shadow on his eyelids, and 2 red dots between his eyebrows. The moment he saw this young man, Suming confirmed his identity. Kimimaro. A survivor of the Kagaya clan, he is also the holder of the powerful corpse vein, that is the limit of blood inheritance. Although he didn't appear many times in the original Naruto novels, and he still looked like a young boy, Suming still recognized him. Kimimaro, Master Suming is here, why don't you salute quickly? Kabuto shouted sternly from the side. Suming raised his hand and stopped Kabuto. But Kimimaro still stood up, looked at Suming, and shouted. Lord Suming. Suming nodded. Kimimaro's ability is that he can freely manipulate bone bud cells and osteoclasts, and can even control the calcium concentration to form bones. His bones are very hard, harder than steel. Therefore, he also possesses extremely strong attack and defense capabilities. In the original work, Gaara's absolute defense was broken by Kimimaro. If he hadn't gotten sick in the end, they might not have been able to defeat Kimimaro. What impressed Suming most about Kimimaro was his powerful strength and loyalty. It can be said that he is the best subordinate. Suming didn't expect to meet him here. Kimimaro. A man in solitude. Are you alone? Suming looked at Kimimaro. Yes, my lord. This is the answer. Although the honorific was used, it was not tinged with fear. The room was dark, with not much light. When Suming looked around, Kimimaro seemed to have guessed what Suming was thinking, and Kimimaro said. Actually, I don't hate darkness. It used to accompany me when I grew up. Suming nodded. A person who grew up in darkness, sometimes darkness is often his dependence. Just like Zabuza and Haku, Sasuke and Naruto, Kimimaro and Orochimaru in the previous life. Someone once lamented that if Kimimaro had met Zabuza instead of Orochimaru, maybe the ending would have changed. Now, Kimimaro meets Suming. The difference was that Suming saw that there was no light in Kimimaro's eyes, and he was still in darkness. It seems that the world has gone a little awry due to Suming's appearance. Kimimaro is not yet loyal to Orochimaru. Suming asked. Then what do you hate? Kimimaro was silent for a moment, then raised his head. I hate being alone, I hate not being needed. The darkness is not scary, the scary thing is loneliness. In the darkness, those small eyes seem to be completely hidden and about to dim. Why are you still alive when you are clearly not needed and have no meaning? This is his question. But Suming reached out and touched his head. It was a ray of light. Suming's light. Kimimaro raised his head, his eyes glowing slightly in the darkness. There is no such thing as living a meaningful life, but if you keep living, you may find something interesting. Suming rubbed Kimimaro's head. It's like you came here and I found you. Snapped. Kabuto lit the candle, and the room became brighter. The candlelight illuminated everything, and also illuminated Kimimaro's eyes. Feeling the warmth of Suming's palm, Kimimaro felt desire in his heart for the first time. Eager to follow in Suming's footsteps. Come on. Let's go. Following the hair down, Suming stroked Kimamaro's face and smiled. His smile was as bright as a candle. Although darkness is a source of loneliness, light is the real hope. I also want to explore the truth of the world with Master Suming. At this moment, the still young Kimamaro made a decision. He took Kimamaro and left the house. Following Suming, Kimamaro seemed to be in a good mood. But at this moment, Kabuto seemed to be hesitant to speak. Suming saw it and said, "Is something wrong?" Kabuto said, "Kimamaro is very special. He has been suffering from a disease since he was a child. Even Lord Orochimaru is helpless against this disease. So, even if Lord Suming and Lord Orochimaru want someone, I'm afraid." He didn't finish what he said, but his meaning was obvious, and it would be useless to ask for it. Hearing this, Kimamaro's body trembled. Not being needed is what he fears most. For Kimamaro, the most profound thing in his memory is fighting, because only at the moment of fighting, he is needed. A bone spur appeared in his hand, and he stabbed Kabuto without any scruples. Snapped. At this moment, a hand held him. Kimamaro looked up and saw Suming with a smile on his face. Kimamaro wanted to explain, but Suming shook his head. "Don't be afraid, I have a solution for your illness." Really? Kimamaro asked. Certainly. The bone spur disappeared and Kimamaro returned to his original appearance. Kimamaro is very strong, even though he is still young. Just now, if Suming hadn't discovered it quickly, Kabuto might have died immediately. As for the reason, it was because Kabuto's words made Kimamaro think that he was trying to persuade Suming to give up on him. Kabuto, who had survived the disaster, felt a little palpitated. He originally walked next to Kimamaro, but now he hurriedly moved to the other side. With Kabuto's current strength, he would be completely defeated by Kimamaro. He spent 80 template points to redeem some medicine from the template mall and gave it to Kimamaro. With the system in place, Kimamaro's condition is naturally not a problem. However, even though Kimamaro was behaving well now, Kabuto didn't dare to look at him again. The scene just now frightened him too much. Now, the other side. After Pain returned to Akatsuki, he went directly to see Obito. What happened? Under the small hole left in the mask, Obito's exposed Sharingan eyes were filled with doubts. Although Orochimaru's ability is good, Scorpion's ability is also extremely strong. Coupled with the Rinnegan, there is no possibility of missing. But now, I met two Konoha ninjas. Pain said matter-of-factly. Konoha. Pain told the story, and then Obito pondered. I didn't expect that Konoha would have such a talented ninja. He looked at Pain and asked, is it possible to recruit him? Pain shook his head, he has clearly refused and will not join us. That's such a shame. Obito shook his head, his eyes a little cold. Since you don't join us, we will definitely become enemies when we collect tailed beasts in the future. Why don't we take action in advance? Furthermore, Onoki from Iwagakure village has also sent someone to contact us, hoping that we can cause some trouble for Konoha. Although it is not wise to provoke Konoha now, the reward offered by Onoki is irresistible. Nagato, please prepare. Pain nodded and left. Although the Iwagakure village also participated in the last ninja war, they were unable to participate in the war due to a logistics attack by the Yellow Flash. Most of the ninjas in the village have survived. Not to mention anything else, in terms of ninjas alone, Iwagakure village has more than Konoha by any means. The last Ninja World War did not yield any benefits, but it made Onoki very unhappy, especially when Kumogakure village cut off Konoha a while ago, which made Onoki's heart agitated again. For a while, he had been thinking about how to create a conflict and ask Konoha to compensate. The fighting power of Iwagakure village is Onoki's support. Moreover, he knew very well the character of Konoha Hokage. Except for the second-generation Hokage who did have some tricks, the other Hokages were not very good to put it bluntly. The first generation gave the tailed beast away for free, the fourth generation passed away in a hurry after being in power for a short time, and the third generation Hokage, to put it bluntly, had only one word to comment, coward. In the last great ninja war, even though Konoha clearly had the advantage, they sent for peace talks. Isn't this cowardice? Therefore, Onoki decided that even if there was a conflict with Konoha, he, Sarutobi Hiruzen, would not dare to do anything. Even if there was a fight, How could he, Iwagakure, be afraid? Under the mask, Obito was silent for a moment, then suddenly stood up. He wanted to see for himself the boy who split the Rinnegan attack. If he could, he might just do it. Konoha. The village was as peaceful as ever. The streets are bustling and people have smiles on their faces. The difference is that the child who occasionally went out on weekdays and was hated by the villagers and called the fox demon, has not been out for a long time. However, no one cared about him. It's still bustling outside. However, in that small room, if you get close, you can definitely hear the hearty laughter that comes from time to time. So happy. Naruto, you have to train hard. Iruka looked at Naruto, who was smiling in front of him, and looked serious. However, it didn't take long before he finally collapsed under Naruto's sunny smile. In the end, I could only say helplessly. Naruto, if you don't work hard, you won't be able to fulfill our agreement. After hearing Iruka's threat, Naruto, who was originally joking, suddenly became serious. All right. Subdued. In the sealed space, Namikaze Minato felt helpless. After Su Ming left, he figured out what the agreement between Naruto and Iruka was. The two agreed that as long as Naruto practiced well and met Iruka's requirements, they would give Naruto a sum of money. Of course, Naruto was not interested in money. He wanted to use the money he earned to treat his brother to a meal of ramen. A meal of ramen with unique side dishes that he developed. In fact, Naruto has already thought about that exclusive side dish, which is called Naruto roll. Under the sun, Naruto was sweating profusely and determined. And not long after, a little head poked out from the door. However, when he saw the scene in the courtyard, there was a hint of loss in his little eyes. It's Hinata. Iruka waved after seeing it. Looking for Su Mingjun again. You came early and he hasn't come back yet. Since Su Ming left, Hinata often comes here, waiting for Su Ming's return. But every time, I am disappointed. Oh. Hinata's head suddenly dropped, and then she walked away with a disappointed look on her face. Hinata-sama, let's go back and practice. Only by becoming stronger can we protect Su Mingjun in the future. Next to Hinata, Neji had a smile on his face. Hinata nodded heavily, her eyes firm. I want to become stronger and protect Su Mingjun. The two left. But no one saw Itachi leaning lightly on the tree nearby. He looked here and whispered softly. Actually, I also want to protect Su Mingjun. Not long after Hinata left. A slightly stooped figure appeared at the door, wearing a white Hokage robe, which made Iruka only see part of the figure and judge the identity of the person. The third Hokage-sama. Iruka saluted. Iruka, didn't I tell you? You don't need to be polite. Sarutobi looked kind. You are Naruto's teacher, you don't need these etiquette. Sandaime-sama is the hero of the village, so you should still have the proper etiquette. Iruka said sternly. Sarutobi nodded and looked at Iruka with more and more satisfaction. No one doesn't like appreciation, including the third generation. In the time since Su Ming left, the third generation has appeared somewhat frequently, almost more often than Hinata. And every time he came, he either came to care about Naruto or brought some gadgets for him. It seemed like he really cared about Naruto. But Naruto, there's no need to practice. The third Hokage is here. Iruka shouted. Naruto heard the sound, stopped what he was training, and then ran over at full speed. Grandpa third generation, what good things did you bring to me this time? Haha. This time it's just a gadget, but I thought it was interesting, so I brought it. Saying that, Sarutobi took out two crystal clear glass balls from his hand and placed them in Naruto's hand. Wow. It's so beautiful. Thank you, third generation grandpa. Naruto looked excited. Haha. As long as Naruto likes it. Sarutobi touched Naruto's head. A scene of a loving father and a filial piety. However, when Sarutobi left, Naruto's smile suddenly turned cold. Snapped. He casually threw the glass ball that Sarutobi took over into the garbage pile nearby. Naruto looked at Iruka. Iruka-sensei, let's continue training. Iruka nodded, not surprised. That glass ball is indeed a gadget. You can't even use one or two of the gadgets you buy at the corner store. 3 generations. Could you be more perfunctory? Iruka shook his head. Orochimaru's stronghold. The lights were bright, Su-ming put down the book in his hand, looked at Kabuto who had just walked in, and asked softly. Is something wrong? Sir Su-ming. Kabuto saluted respectfully. Sir Orochimaru has something to ask of you. I know, let's get over it. Su-ming closed the book and reached out to touch Kimamaro's head. When Kimamaro blushed, Su-ming chuckled and walked out of the room. In the original Naruto novel, this calm handsome man was unexpectedly cute when he was a child. Cuter than Itachi. Laboratory. Orochimaru waited for a long time. Su-ming Jun, I have news that you must be interested in. What news? Su-ming raised an eyebrow. Orochimaru said, I just got the news that the Akatsuki organization is going to attack Konoha. Huh. Su-ming was stunned. He remembered that Akatsuki should still be in the stage of collecting money, and she was still far away from taking action against Konoha. How could she take action now? Su-ming frowned. Could it be that because of himself, Orochimaru did not join Akatsuki, so there were some deviations in his trajectory? Probably. Orochimaru continued. The reason why Akatsuki attacked Konoha is said to have been hired by Onoki. Onoki. Su-ming pondered the name. He knew Onoki's name very well. Known as the Onoki of Two Scales. It is said that he fought against Madara when he was young, but judging from Madara's strength, he was probably pinned to death by a Susanna. But it is undeniable that Onoki's strength is at the shadow level. The most important point is that Iwagakure village retained a lot of vitality from the last ninja war. This point is far beyond what Konoha can compare with. Seeing that Su-ming didn't speak, Orochimaru continued. In the last ninja world war, old guy Onoki didn't get much benefit. It seems he can't hold himself back anymore. Su-ming nodded and understood immediately. He then looked at Orochimaru. Are you interested in making this muddy water a little muddier? Oh. Orochimaru's eyes showed excitement. What does Su-ming Jun want to do? He defected from Konoha. It is absolutely impossible to say that he has no hatred for Konoha. Orochimaru loved taking revenge on Konoha. If I remember correctly, Sarutobi Asuma should be outside at this time, right? Su-ming smiled. That smile is very intriguing. This water could actually be a little muddier. The current level is not enough. Konoha border. A small team patrols here. The person responsible for the security here is Asuma Sarutobi, the son of the third Hokage. However, it has been a long time since he left Konoha. Even though he now knew the situation in Konoha and lacked manpower, Asuma, who was angry with his father, still refused to go back. He lit a cigarette and took a long drag without caring about others. Asuma looked a little intoxicated. Although he has always been dissatisfied with his father, his love of smoking is exactly the same as Sarutobi Hiruzen. In particular, Asuma always thought it was very handsome. Ahem. Beside him, there were a few people who couldn't bear it anymore and glared at Asuma. Can you smoke less? Asuma ignored it. At this time, his mind was filled with Yuhi Kurenai's figure. That's his goddess. After thinking about it, he finished smoking one cigarette and Asuma was about to take out another one. However, at this moment, a cold light suddenly struck. Asuma immediately dodged, not even having time to alert the others. Boom. There was a loud noise, and several teammates who were next to him just now died violently. Looking at this scene, Asuma looked extremely cold. After the smoke and dust dissipated, only a young figure was seen. The boy is not that big, but the bone sword he holds in his hand is extremely frightening. Kimamaro. Even the young Kimamaro is extremely powerful. As the son of Hokage, Asuma's strength is pretty good, but the same cannot be said for his teammates. Who are you? Asuma glared at Kimamaro. Laugh. The bone sword in Kimamaro's hand crossed the ground and slowly pointed at Asuma, while raising his eyes slightly. Sarutobi Asuma. This time, Asuma saw it clearly. Hidden Mist Village, Corpse Veins. He was horrified, and at the same time a short knife appeared in his hand, and a chakra blade appeared on the knife. This is Asuma's proud ability. Unfortunately, Kimamaro was not the only one who came. Earth Escape Earth Flow Wall. Boom. A large row of walls formed by soil appeared from the ground at an extremely fast speed. If Asuma hadn't reacted quickly, he would have been hit directly. And at the moment Asuma dodged, the bone sword in Kimamaro's hand instantly lengthened, and then he rushed towards Asuma without hesitation. Kimimaro was born to fight. Even though he is young, his strength cannot be underestimated. Ding! The bone sword and the short sword collided together, but what surprised Asuma was that even if his short sword was attached with a wind attribute chakra blade, it could not make any marks on the bone sword. What a hard bone! Asuma looked solemn. Asuma was unable to escape from the struggle. However, at this moment, the wall of earth flow continued to rise, and its speed was so fast that no one could react at all. Asuma was hit directly in the air. Boom! Asuma landed, slightly confused. Son of the Hokage, is this the only level? Said a voice next to him. Asuma tried his best to raise his head, but he couldn't see the man's appearance clearly. The only thing he could see clearly were the two rock symbols on the forehead protector he wore. That's the logo of Iwagakure village. Asuma fainted. As expected of Mr. Snake, he solved the battle with only one intermediate ninjutsu. Su Ming came out and praised. Orochimaru took off the Iwagakure forehead protector on his head and crushed it casually. What's really surprising is that this child has such strength at such a young age. If Su Ming Jun hadn't taken a liking to him, I wouldn't have thought of him. I want this body. Su Ming said nothing, but there was a warning in his eyes. He turned his head and looked at Asuma aside. Asuma's injury was not particularly serious. If we must say it was seriously injured, it was actually between his legs, where the blood was flowing. Su Ming remembered that he seemed to have heard the sound of something breaking. He turned around and gave Orochimaru a strange look. Does Orochimaru have such a hobby? However, this is definitely not a good thing for Asuma, and for a man, it would probably be more uncomfortable than killing him. Well, Dandan's sadness. Let's go. Su Ming looked at Orochimaru. Asuma is injured to this extent, it's enough. Orochimaru licked his lips excitedly. I wonder what Sarutobi-sensei would think when he sees his son like this. I really want to see Sarutobi-sensei's expression, but unfortunately, I don't have the chance. There will be more in the future. Su Ming smiled and left immediately. Kimimaro followed. It won't be long before the news of Asuma's injury will reach Konoha. Although what Asuma saw in a coma may not be real, and even if it is real, it may be fake, but there is definitely a grudge in Sarutobi's heart. Coupled with the appearance of Akatsuki, after a while, and the actions of Iwagakure village, at that time, Sarutobi couldn't help but not believe it. Even if he doesn't believe it, Su Ming will make him believe it. The son lost his fertility, which also meant that his lineage in the Sarutobi clan was almost cut off. Coupled with the provocation from the enemy village, I wonder how Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, will deal with it. How could it be possible to make his life so comfortable? Su Ming laughed. Su Ming and others returned to Orochimaru's stronghold. This is considered Kimimaro's first battle, and it also shows how powerful Kimimaro is. Corpse bone veins are really powerful. Along the way, Orochimaru looked at Kimimaro's figure and didn't know what he was thinking. Kimimaro found it in Orochimaru's stronghold, so he naturally knew such a person, but Orochimaru also knew Kimimaro's problem, and it couldn't be cured by his methods. But now, it was cured by Su Ming. Orochimaru's eyes flashed, and he suddenly said, Su Ming Jun, after I finish learning everything in Dingtok, will I be able to catch up with you? Su Ming was stunned for a moment, then smiled, we're still far away. You still have a lot to learn. Looking at Su Ming's back, Orochimaru's eyes flashed. Su Ming Jun, you are such a mysterious person. When does Su Ming Jun plan to return to Konoha? Orochimaru looked at Su Ming and asked. Go back to Konoha. Su Ming laughed, how can it be so easy to go back? Sarutobi was able to let me out this time because he definitely thought that I would die in your hands. If I go back like this, they will be unhappy. Seeing the smile on Su Ming's face, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Based on his understanding of Su Ming, he naturally knew that he would not be so kind for the sake of Sarutobi and Danzo. It's a great show, but it's only just started. Su Ming smiled and touched Kimimaro's face next to him. Counting the time, there are guests coming. Let's go out and meet them. Orochimaru was stunned. It was unclear who the guest Su Ming was talking about. Could it be that Sarutobi-sensei sent someone to chase him? Or maybe it's Danzo's person. With doubts, Orochimaru followed Su Ming's footsteps and arrived outside the stronghold. Outside the stronghold, the wind was not strong, blowing up dust all over the sky. Under the dust, a figure stood quietly. Short hair, an orange-red one-eyed mask with black stripes, a black hooded floor-length robe, and the ninja tool is a chain connecting the two wrists hidden in the cuffs. And from under the one-eyed mask, the exposed 3 Magatama Sharingan is particularly obvious. His name, Obito Uchiha. In fact, when Su Ming drove away Pain and Scorpion, he had guessed that Obito would come. But at that time, it was just speculation, but with the news about Orochimaru, Su Ming was almost certain that Obito would definitely come. I will definitely come and see what I am like as a person who has defeated the Eye of Reincarnation. Really? As he expected. Looking at the exposed Sharingan, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. Uchiha. He frowned. In his memory, there was information about most Uchiha people, but none of them could match the person in front of him. Who is it? That's right. Obito admitted directly, then deliberately lowered his voice and said in an extremely hoarse voice. My name is Uchiha Madara. These words made Orochimaru stunned. But Su Ming burst out laughing. Uchiha Madara. Don't insult Madara. Why are you laughing? The only exposed Sharingan eye contained endless anger. Obito glared at Su Ming and shouted. It's nothing, I just laughed at you for not being worthy. Su Ming raised his head and ignored Obito's anger. The Uchiha Madara I know well is a person who dares to fight with Senju Hashirama, and a person who dares to shake the entire Konoha with his own power. Although he lost magnanimously and brightly. Uchiha Madara is not this kind of trash who hides his head and shows his tail and dare not show his true colors. Listening to Su Ming's words, Orochimaru looked sideways. He did not expect that Su Mingjun knew Uchiha Madara so deeply. Indeed, during the Warring States period, had it not been for the existence of Senju Hashirama, Madara Uchiha would have been the undisputed number 1. And even in the era when Hashirama existed, Madara was still an extremely shining star. Jiraiya has always been called a hero, but Su Ming has always felt that if Jiraiya is a hero, then Madara is enough to be called a hero. This hero is a hero's hero. Are you questioning me, Madara Uchiha? Obito narrowed his eyes, his anger almost reached its extreme. Thanks for watching.